It is worth noting that for urban conditions, sliding doors are a great idea. Closed parking allows you to fully reveal all the advantages of an unusual scheme. And after opening the door in the back, there was an impressive opening 92 centimeters. At the same time, it was sliding doors that most often caused concern among Peugeot 1007 owners. Sometimes, they began to take on a life of their own even in new cars. For example, spontaneously opened after closing. Other shortcomings showed up in bad weather. The process of closing/opening the door takes more than 5 seconds. Thus, a complete cycle takes at least 10 seconds. This is quite enough so that during rain or snow, the seats are soaked with water. The door control system uses 2 control units. One of them is installed in the central pillar, the second directly in the door. Both are connected to the multiplex network and communicate via the data bus with the COM 2002 multifunctional module, located under the steering wheel, ABS/ESP, the airbag module, as well as with the BSI intelligent unit, which is actually the main center of the entire multiplex network of the car. The airbag module reports the occurrence of a collision, which is a signal to unlock the door locks. From the ABS, the system receives information about the start of movement, and when the speed is exceeded 5 km/h, a command is sent to block the door locks. But if the door turned out to be open, then after 5 km/h it can no longer be closed. With regard to safety, the servomotor is turned off if the doors suddenly began to experience resistance. For example, they did not remove their hand. In case of failure of the electric drive, the door can be opened by hand. If the tank lid remains open, the door on the right side will be blocked. Technical problems with doors can be divided into 2 groups. For malfunctions that can be solved relatively cheaply and simply, and for problems that require deeper diagnostics. Replacing some components will be very expensive. The first group includes cases when the doors do not remain in the open position, or vice versa, they refuse to close completely. One of the reasons is dirty guides creaking will be heard. If the door does not lock in the open position, then the plastic microswitch located at the back of the lower rail is most likely to blame. In the incomplete closing of the door, in turn, the contacts in the A-pillar are to blame. There are several contacts here. Some of them give a signal to the control unit to activate a servomotor that presses the back of the door to the body. Other contacts feed the glass servo when the doors are open, the windows are turned off. Sometimes it is possible to get rid of the disease by simply cleaning contacts from dirt. The second group of problems includes failures in the door control system. Experience shows that the likelihood of ailments is directly proportional to the age of the vehicle. The door stops responding to commands from the button on the front panel, and accordingly, on the central locking remote control. In this case, the door can be opened by simply pulling the handle, which will require more effort. Most often, the lock servo drive fails. It has a fragile plastic lever with a moving contact. It is not possible to buy the lever separately. The stepper drive motor does not differ in durability. In its bowels there is a tiny 2-speed gearbox with plastic gears that wear out. Initially, the Peugeot 1007 was equipped with 2 petrol and 1 diesel engine, 1.48V, 1.616V and 1.4 HD. Later, 1.416V was offered, and in 2007 1.6 HD. The 1.4-liter 8-valve 4-cylinder petrol unit is part of the popular TU series. This engine is reliable and durable. Perhaps the only thing that can happen is a breakdown of the gasket under the head of the block. As a result, oil leaks appear, which also penetrates into the cooling system. By upgrading from an 8-valve, a 1.4-liter 16-valve was obtained, which received the designation ET3. In terms of performance, this is the best engine for the 1007. It features a compression ratio, was lowered from 10.5 to 10.2, the presence of 2 overhead camshafts with variable valve timing on the intake shaft, and hydraulic valve clearance compensators. The 16-valve 1.6-liter TU5 JP4 engine, like the 1.416V, uses a block head with 2 shafts. In 8-valve engines, you have to put up with mechanical valve clearance adjustment. 16-valve valves use hydraulic compensators, the service life of which directly depends on the quality and frequency of oil changes. Over time, they clog, and the engine, after a cold start, begins to chirp like a sewing machine. At high mileage, cracks may occur in the exhaust manifold of TU series engines, 1.48V and 1.616V. Diesel versions are best avoided. Fortunately, they are almost never found, since the new diesel car was too expensive. With long runs, the sealing washers under the injectors may lose their tightness. This leads to rapid oil degradation, carbon deposits, and engine and turbocharger wear. The gas distribution mechanism of all motors without exception is driven by a toothed belt. Experienced mechanics recommend changing it every 60,000 kilometers. A 1.4-liter gasoline aspirated requires SAE 10W40 oil, others require 5W40. In the case of gasoline units, the oil must comply with the API SH/SJ standard, and in the case of diesel units, ASEA B3-96. An 8-valve 1.4-liter engine requires control and adjustment of the valve clearance no later than after 150,000 kilometers. The compact was equipped with a 5-speed manual transmission. The 1.616V was offered as standard with a 2-tronic automated transmission. For 1.48V, the robot was provided as an option. In 2006, mechanics appeared even in the most powerful version. This is the merit of the sports version of RC. A robotic gearbox is by far the cheapest way to attract automatic customers. A classic automatic transmission with a torque converter for this segment is too expensive. 2-tronic is the same robot as the Citroën Sensidrive. It is designated as MA5/S. From this it is clear that the assembly is based on the MA5 manual gearbox. The difference between them is noticeable from the outside, where a block with 3 stepper servomotors is installed. 2 of them are responsible for changing speeds, and the third controls the clutch. During operation, the clutch mechanism wears out, the functionality and accuracy of the system decreases. All servomotors are combined into a single control unit. Since the 2-tronic uses a conventional clutch, the control unit must know the clutch thresholds, i.e. must be adapted. Otherwise, the box will not be able to run smoothly. In addition, premature clutch wear occurs. It is worth noting that the clutch in manual transmissions lasts much longer. Handling Peugeot deserves average marks. But the level of comfort when driving over potholes is truly French. Through dips in the roadway, 1007 passes smoothly, and passengers do not experience excessive shocks. The front uses classic McPherson struts, and the rear uses a torsion beam with spaced springs and shock absorbers. Despite the simplicity of the design, the strength of the suspension is not impressive. Shock absorbers sometimes require replacement after 30,000 kilometers, and a little later, thrust bearings. In some cases, there are clicks when turning the steering wheel. The steering column will need to be repaired or replaced.